In Finland, environment has been very important and is an important part of our culture. Nature and everyone's rights to explore and experience both the forest and other types of environment is important, and spending time outside the school, outdoor education is very much cultivated. But what is done exactly? I think as a researcher I'm very interested to examine and also work with teachers and educators in order to create novel pedagogies and materials that can address systematically issues around education and environmental education in particular.
Just how they are going different systems, but now they have they have long day here and so nice to make funny. And that reason I also make so much with children practice where they're moving and playing.
Kohta puoliin kaikki on piirissä. Kohta puoliin otamme pienen hiljaisuuskiitoskonsertin tälle.
Yeah, we have a project of nature, like go with nature, and we have like all different kind of things we do with the different schools.
Okay.
In Helsinki, in Espoo, in Vantaa.
For us, it's about integration through nature.
Okay.
Mostly because we work with immigrants. Then we are going to see some wild herbs or wild vegetables. Would you say?
Flowers.
Yes.
With Milla.
Yes. Because in Finland you can collect herbs and mushrooms and berries from nature, and if you know of course these names and others, and how they can collect, and you can use this for salad, and this is like pepper.
Yeah.
Do you want?
Yeah. So one of the goals is to help the students who are new to Finland feel part of Finland, feel more like home.
Through nature.
Yeah,
Yes.
through nature.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's the main thing.
The main goal.
Yeah, main goal. Yes. We have this.
All men rights.
Yeah.
Like it's just that you can take herbs and flowers for your salads, or you can sleep in a tent.
You get to know your environment, so you feel more like home.
And you can put this card right places.
So you try to match it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
This is like a snail.
Little bit difficult.
Yeah. I see. Okay. So here's
But-
the shells. Maybe here. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This one can be found there.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Small microscope.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yes. Around here. Maybe find something. This is species system that not any insect or something like that for this species. And we can also help this species. We can also carry some stones and
Elikkä kohta laitatte silmät kiinni.
we collect and touching and we thinking about how this language go inside your mind by your hands. How you can see or hear more your hands touch.
Yeah.
Because when you do something you remember better.
Finland we have a lot of land, we have a lot of lakes, and forest has played an important role in our economy even. So we want to cultivate those values that have existed in our society for ages. So that is one of the reasons why we really address environment and now more even purposefully address it. And even try to deepen those experiences that children can gain by interacting and learning outdoors. And particularly helping already young children to kind of understand the complexities and the relationship of their own behavior to the environment and vice versa.
I've always been really curious about nature. I collected bugs when I was little and studied what they like to eat and stuff like that. I think we adults really overcomplicate things a lot of the time, and nature provides simplicity. My name is Karoliina Valontaivalo and I'm the nature school instructor and coordinator here at the Meriharju Nature Center. We're so inundated with all kinds of stimuli out there. Here we're 2-3 hours in nature, lots of sensory awareness exercises and games that are really catered to opening the senses, awakening to the beauty that's around us basically. And we really see the benefit that nature has here for children and how much they crave silence, how much they crave just being able to be and have fun. We're a part of the youth department of Helsinki. For us, it's the youth work angle to environmental education, which for us means supporting what they already do at school, but making it more experiential and more about their own practical experience. So it's not so knowledge-based for us here. It's more fostering their personal relationship to nature, providing opportunities for them to act on the behalf of the environment and maybe learn about ways of being an active citizen.
We try to do everything through some kind of games or some kind of active methods where the learning happens unnoticeably. Not so kind of school type of learning, but more experiential. And I think children tend to behave outdoors very differently to a classroom. It's mostly green and brown that we see, and it's really about like tuning into the fine details that we tend to bypass and not notice. So we bring more attention into the detail and cultivate a sense of fascination. I see this jump between like 4th and 5th grade often, that the 4th graders still have this childlike imagination happening very spontaneously and naturally, and it's really beautiful to be able to support that and their creativity with things that they just spontaneously start doing. And sadly that dwindles as they grow older, but I do see nature tends to bring that out in children more.
We have special programs run by early childhood centers and schools, and also by informal sectors that really focus on the environment and environmental issues. But we don't necessarily have a comprehensive picture how every child and every teacher addresses environment in their everyday practices. It is part of our curriculum now, but the ways how teachers teach it, how it is systematically promoted from early years to primary and secondary level is not necessarily that clear.
We're so distanced from our food production systems. Hardly any of us grow our own food anymore. We might not even recognize what a carrot plant looks like or a potato plant. It's just something that comes in a plastic bag in a shop. Actually going out there and picking the food yourself and having a different kind of a relationship to food, because we're so distanced.
Ainakin tää rasia pitäisi saada täyteen.
Food is such an important part of our lives. It's such a social thing, and it's a really concrete way for us to make choices and to have an impact.
Tää ei oo se myykkinen, vaan tää on syötävä. Nää voi syödä ihan raakanakin. Te voitteko?
There's like multiple levels with like more ecological food, with moving outside, with environmental sensitivity and being able to notice details, that you have to really look at this plant and see the shapes of the leaves and see how it grows and how does this plant grow differently from that one, and like cultivate that skill of observation. Yeah. And through that then you have already a gateway into having a different relationship with that place. And it's because we all have some kind of a relationship with food, it's an easy place to start to have those kind of conversations.
Raspberry leaves for tea and strawberry leaves for tea, and then we'll see soon when we go inside what else we're gonna cook together, and then they'll get to eat what they've foraged.
Considering the teachers' professionalism in Finland, we want to give teachers possibilities for creativity and design. It's very much about integrating the curriculum and learning about the curriculum in the context of the nature.
Yeah, and I think when we like go inside and they kind of realize that we're actually going to be doing something with this, that they're not picking plants for nothing, that there is a purpose and it's food and it's going to taste good, then
They don't know that.
well,
point.
but I mean, you're making pancakes, so you can guess that it's probably going to taste good, and you get to have jam with them, sugar. But like we just give them the recipe, and the tools are there, and we try and hold back as much as we can, so they have the creativity and responsibility in that situation.
For example, nettle, it stings when you gather it, but when you start to do something with it, then it becomes food, and I think it's quite...
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's fun and exciting. And when I, as an adult, can give space and responsibility, they get much more engaged than if I try and control the situation. It's a lot more empowering for them to just get to try and see what happens. Yeah, and just getting them to be really hands-on and just to have some fun with trying something new. And something about that we actually do something then with that knowledge, that it doesn't remain as this abstract thing you learn from a textbook, but there's an actual significance for why you need to learn this, because one plant is poisonous and the other one isn't. So it gives a meaningful context to noticing and learning. More of that sort of phenomenon-based learning, that it's a cross-subject, multiple thing. And before, it might just be a vague idea, and they get to see it and feel it and smell it and taste it and do something with it. So it's not just a theoretical, abstract idea, it's actually concrete. And sort of it's just learning that kind of happens on the side. You don't even notice it. And you can just focus on having fun and doing it with your friend, and everybody loves cooking.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a really easy thing to do, and it's a really concrete way for us to make choices and to have an impact. I think it's something that kids this age are more and more aware of. And then there's been all these, like, the young people's movements that was started by this Swedish teenager protesting for climate change, and there's been a lot of stuff around that also in Finland, and young people are really concerned. So I feel like we as adults have a responsibility to answer to that, and like support that. I think if, like, after today, if we'd go back again and pick something more, they might be more engaged, because they have the experience of what we do with it.
Now, with recent changes in climate and other environmental challenges, has also made Finnish education system to think more seriously how we are really specifically addressing environmental education. You use the environment as kind of your stepping stone and learning environment to make sense of the phenomena in question, and then you need to often use different disciplines to solve that particular challenge that you have identified. That's now the ethos in Finland, so you can study all different disciplines outside, and also learn in inter or transdisciplinary ways by solving some authentic problems that you locate in the environment or somewhere else.
The Baltic Sea is unfortunately one of the most polluted seas in the whole world, And there's a lot of different things that make it unique. It's all brackish water, for instance. So it's not as salty as the ocean, and it's not fresh water like a lake. And this amount of salt varies on where you are. But it's a really young sea, so it's only formed after the Ice Age, and it's very shallow. So the deepest place is something like half a kilometer, so like 500 something meters near Sweden, and the average depth is like 40 meters or something. So not a lot of water, massive watershed. So it's like 4 times the size of the sea itself. Lots of different countries bordering the sea, and then near Denmark, between Denmark and Sweden, where it connects out to the Atlantic Ocean, it's also narrow and shallow, and it requires really like specific weather conditions for a pulse of oceanic water to come through, and that only happens like every 10 years. So the water doesn't really change very often. And when it does, there's a lot of oxygen that comes into the sea and really enlivens things again, but it's quite infrequent. And so the combination of all of this means that everything that happens in all of these countries in that watershed area has a huge impact on the sea. And farming is one massive thing with like petrochemical fertilizers. They're not stored in the soil like organic-based manures and things would be, but they get washed by rainwater out into the sea, and that causes a lot of algae growth, and like there's less oxygen, and a lot of the fish and birds and other wildlife suffer from that. The oil tankers are a problem because it's so shallow and there's so many islands. It's a big risk. Plastics and like chemicals in general, like basically everything that we use, from medicines to toothpaste to shampoos to cleaning agents, like none of that can really be fully removed at water treatment plants. So everything that goes down a drain ends up in the sea. And most of those chemicals don't biodegrade in water. And lots of them have adverse effects both on wildlife and humans eventually.
Phenomenon-based learning is like that you have a phenomenon, say water or endangered animals, and you look at it from like many different subjects, not just like compartmentalized. They make their own project, and it's all really experiential, lots of active methods.
We try to concentrate on like concrete things they can do in their everyday lives, and we talk about the importance of recycling, or when we talk about oil tankers, which is another problem here because the sea is so shallow and because there's a lot of islands and the archipelagos, so there's a lot of risk for oil accidents. But then we talk about, so what do we use oil for? Why are there so many oil tankers around in the first place? Could we do something like to change our lifestyles to need less oil? And they're often really keen on, you know, riding bikes and using renewable energy and like connect with that kind of an idea. At first, the oil tanker thing is quite an abstract thing, but then it's and something is like, well, what do I do about that? But kind of bringing the solution closer to home. They don't make the connection immediately. Like it comes when we talk about it, and we talk a lot about plastic. Like that's an issue here, like in all seas and oceans and lakes around the world. I've been really surprised with the groups coming this spring. We just had our Baltic Sea program last week, and they were all very familiar with microplastics and stuff like that. So they like fourth, fifth graders. So I think it's been a lot in the media, and I think people are talking about it a lot. It is a challenge to find ways of talking about these big problems and and finding ways that children can connect with the solution, and that it's not just talking about the problems, but we foster a sense of hopefulness. And I always talk about the skills that we need to create a better world, and their like empathy and your relationship to nature and your ability to cooperate are really key. Because if we don't have those things, then it's impossible for us to work together towards those solutions.
Right.
So I try to incorporate different kinds of games and activities around that sense of cooperation and working together, and like telling them that this is why we do it, because that's a skill that you'll need.
Right. So what are some of the solutions that they come up to the problems of the Baltic Sea?
Well, we talk about organic farming, and well, on the one level, like personal choice, and on the other level, which is not where they're at yet, but the importance of like active citizenship, and that we can make a difference through politics, but also be like letting them know that okay, we know that you're not there yet, but that this gives you a foundation for making those kinds of choices when you're older.
Schools either develop their own programs, but they are increasingly encouraged to collaborate with other providers of environmental education programs, but that is up to the teachers and schools to decide how and when and in what ways they will harness these other programs that are developed outside the school. Okay. But we have nice examples where this collaboration has been very productive.
My name is Leena Nukari, and I work here as an environmental educator. So we have 8 shops here in the capital area. Here in Nihtisilta, this is the biggest one, actually the biggest reuse center in Finland. This company has been working already like 30 years. So it was in the first place it was started because we wanted to recycle things and give a new life to these things and save like natural resources by these actions. And nowadays about 4 million items goes through us every year, and we count also all the natural resources that we save by these actions, and it's about 50 million kilos of natural resources. But these are our Plan B products. It's the brand for our upcycled, actually, you should say. Some nice things that have been produced out of old materials, yeah, and some quite funny ideas. During one weekend we sold about 500 bikes, so it's pretty cool, and all recycled. And one bike, producing one bike, it consumes about 300 kilos of natural resources. We give a new life to them, so we all the time save pretty much, so that's really cool. Quite many people work to get all this stuff here nicely, and it's actually quite a big process. After we get the stuff, after it's all sorted and nicely in here, it's many hands have been working for this already. This is the area where we store things and where we are sorting them also. To have cross-country skis, it's a law in Finland, so we have a lot of them. Yeah.
It's a lot?
No, not really.
Okay, I see.
Actually, only like half the items that we get we are able to sell or give away. We have to also throw a lot of things away, so it's also very important that we learn how to sort the waste here, like by the materials. We are able to give many different works for different kind of people. We have like about 400 person working here every year. For a while they are like trained in all the environmental issues also, right. So it's we have this kind of internal training program kind of for where we go through all these environmental issues. So besides these shops, we have this environmental school. We really believe that it's important that teaching also touches the emotions, for example. So without the emotions, you don't really get involved to these issues. And then it's very important also that you get to do something yourself. For example, if we're teaching the recycling, so we don't just tell them how they should do, but we just give them different bins, and then they get to do the sorting themselves and train like this. Or for the little kids, we have all kind of puppet shows, for example, where things happen and they get inspired. The programs that we are giving here, we take advantage of the fact that actually it's quite fascinating. When you come here, you see all the stuff that's here. It's all recycled, and it can be like a nice experience you get. It affects you, and then you start to think, oh my God, there is so much stuff that people just give away, and the world is full of stuff. And this kind of emotion we want to bring up, and then they can start to think about these things.
Formal education and also families cultivate appreciation of nature and environment.
I think, as what Christina said, it's very much built into the family life. I take my children every weekend, if it's a nice weather, to the nature to discover. Children are taught from a very early age, for instance, to recycle within their own homes, and it's just very much built into our system or into our culture. And I think this pure nature that we still have, we want to embrace, and that's something that we want to pass on to our children, that this is something to respect.